Alright, what we're going to make today is American beef stroganoff. And in order to do this, you're going to need the common items for any kind of stroganoff. You're going to need Worcestershire sauce, garlic, you're going to need a beef-based bouillon, mushrooms, and onion. I typically like this recipe done with a sweeter onion rather than a more tart onion. So what we'll be using for this is a Vidalia. For beef, you want to use a decent cut of beef. I prefer a plank steak, and I will demonstrate how I cut this. And we're going to start with preparing our vegetable part of this, and that is I'm going to cut the onion, put in the butter, put in the garlic, and we'll get that going. Okay, so what you want to use is, you can really use any kind of knife. Serrated knife will work. You want to get ready your ends, and some people like to peel these, which I prefer to do, and I go off a few layers. Now I will show you a trick, Tim. What you can do when you want to, you can cut, which we're going to do anyway. I'm going to ring this onion instead of dicing it. So you go out a few layers and you cut in, and then you can literally peel off like that. So now you have a clean, fresh onion to work with. We'll throw all this away. Now, how you want to ring an onion is you go about 1/4 inch slices like that, and then you can open them up with your thumbs like this if you want. Now we're going to go ahead and take our garlic, and this is a tablespoon, but you want this definitely to be garlicky. This will be about 1/2 teaspoon. Put that in the pan like so. Your butter, I like to use salted organic butter. This has no RSVPs in it, which is healthy. And I use about 1/3 of a stick. So we're going to ring our onion. You do it like that. You can leave the largest piece in if you want. And then what I like to do is just dump my mushrooms in. And these are baby bells, portobello. And again, just ditto on this. And it doesn't matter if they're a little larger than you're used to seeing. And another way you can cut is to roll like that. And you can break them. Doesn't matter. Now the question is, can you make them thinner? Yes, and I can show you how to do a thin cut here. This will all cook down. I'm going to do this on a medium heat, not a high heat. I want the butter to melt, and I want the garlic to infuse. How you do a thin cut is, you put your finger where you want it, and you can take your cut like this. And you want to be careful with your fingers, obviously. And you just go down like that. Now I normally never do uneven cuts, but it's okay if the onion comes out stringy. And when you have a piece like this, one way to cut it when there's a little left, you can pinch with your fingers and push down gently, like that. That's another way it can be done. Okay, so we got that going. And now we're going to work on, and what we'll do is when that vegetable mixture is done, it will reduce. It'll all fit into one bowl. So now we're going to come to the most important part of this, and that is, how do you do beef? I always start at the large end, and what you want to do is you want to cut like this. You want to angle cut it. Now, do you strip it or not? You can. Now, some of the people eating this prefer smaller cuts of meat. So, and that's what I'll do. These will be reduced. And again, can you see it? You cut like that. Okay, so now what we've got is our vegetables going, our mushrooms, our garlic, our butter. Now you want to use about 16 ounces of mushrooms, and I love the baby bells for this particular recipe. I've seen people use shiitakes, which are okay, but what you want is, see how the onions are breaking down? That's how you know you're on the right track. You have some juice from the butter, from the onions, and like I said, there's a healthy dose of garlic in here, and the lid pressurizes and reduces them faster, and that's what you want to have. So there's what we got. All right, so you don't want these quite caramelized, but you want them close. And they're definitely cooked. The onions cooked down a little bit. They're definitely loose. The mushrooms are exactly the way we want it. We got our garlic mix all done. So what we're going to do is put them in a bowl, and this will go in later. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to putting the beef to properly cooking it. How I'm going to do this to demonstrate. The bottom's going to be a little warm, so we'll do a pot holder. And what you want to do is take your meat and you just lay it out like this. Make sure your hands are clean. And we're going to season this. And this is where the magic happens. you take garlic salt, not a lot. And that's pretty much done. And I love the Lowry's. Okay, our Leon Parents. Now, the recipe calls for a teaspoon. And I know exactly how much this is, but I will just show you. We're going to use 2 teaspoons. Think we should do another? Yeah. Everyone loves Leon Parents Worcestershire. Now, a big debate is, do you use garlic with your meat for seasoning? For this, I don't. What you want is salt. And you want to literally whiten it a little bit. You're going to want the meat to be salty. Like that. And another thing I like to do is I like to butter the meat. Like that. Then, to make a roux, which is important, what I do is, this is measured out to 3. We're going to do it like this. This will make a nice roux for the meat. And that's what you do there. And it will thicken as it cooks. And the natural juices will come out and you will have a gravy. So what you do is we're going to lid it like so. That meat is seasoned, it's floured. When this is done, it will have a gravy. The meat will be properly cooked. And with a heavy unventilated lid, it will pressure cook to ensure it's done evenly throughout, and you'll have properly done meat. Another thing you want to do, this is our beef broth. I pre-cooked it. What I always recommend to people, if you can get a bouillon base and organic, this is better than bouillon. It's an American product, but the roasted beef base, this is excellent. This is what you use to season roast beef with. That mixed with our roux and our meat will have this beef properly flavored. And then we'll pot it all in here. Okay, so when you're stirring, see how it's making a roux? See how the meat's graying? And that flour's mixing in. So what will happen is, as this cooks down, a gravy will form. Like that. And then we will keep it lidded, like so. And that's what you do. We're going to let this cook a few minutes longer. That meat should come out good. Okay, so now, see how it's created a sauce. The sauce has the garlic salt, the flour, all creating a roux, and the meat is cooking down. You want to stir occasionally to separate the meat, because what the meat will do, it will clump up. And all that work you did of finely cutting it will be for naught. So, this is how you handle this. We're going to let this cook a little while longer and have a properly done meat and roux sauce, which is the base of the stroganoff. Okay, so what we're doing now, we're turning the heat down, and you notice the roux, that is the basis of the flavors. And the meat's cooking. We got a little ways to go. We're going to want this to thicken up some. And then This is something people do. This is a beef broth. It's organic. You don't add this to your meat. You want this to cook down in its natural juices. When we go to pot this for the stovetop, I'll show how we properly mix and layer these things before we cook them. But anyway, that's what we got so far. That's coming along good. We got our roux. In a few more minutes, that meat will be ready to move over to the pot along with the vegetables, and then we'll mix everything. And that's it. Okay, so what you need at this point, the meat is cooked down. You want, and we use Kitchen Bouquet, a browning and seasoning sauce. And what you want the meat to look like is that. It's dark, it's got the gravy. We're going to reduce this down a little bit, and that will be the basis of the meat. Alright, so what we're going to do now, our meat has cooked down, and we're on the last legs here as far as the mixture goes. What I always recommend is a spatula, and you're going to want everything, as much of this, the roux, as you can get. So you put that into your pot. Then what you do is you level out your meat. You then put the vegetables on top, like so. And then you're going to pour your beef base on top of the whole mess, like that. Then we will take this over here, and we cook it on a very low heat. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to mix this all up on a stovetop heated. Okay, we got our onions, our mushrooms. So Tim, what I need you to do, go ahead and sample that and tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's got all the flavors,
Good.
and that's what we want.
It's the right level of salt too.
That's it. Okay, so it's cooked for about 10 minutes. And what we're going to do is add our sour cream to it. We're just going to mix it in. We'll cook this on a medium heat, lidless, to let it cook down. And there we go.
I'm going to take you through how I make rice in a rice cooker for Stan's dish. My preferred rice is jasmine. I like the flavor, I like the consistency. And what I'll do, if you like rice that is not sticky, you might want to rinse the rice before you put it in. I don't do that because I like the stickiness. So, what I do is I measure a cup and a quarter. And put it in the rice cooker. And then I add what would be approximately 4 tablespoons of butter, which goes in. And then I will add, and this is really important, I use about 5 cups of water. And what this does is it keeps it from being real dry when it's done. And then I stir it. And I'll add some salt to taste. This is kosher salt. Then you close it. And the rice cooker needs to be plugged in. Turn it on and select white rice. That's what we're cooking. And wait for the cooking light to come on. And it will be done in about 20 minutes. When it's done, immediately you will take the pan that is inserted out, because the heating element takes time to cool off, and if you leave the rice in there, it'll scorch the bottom. So taking it out right away is very important. And then you stir it and fluff it, and you're ready to go.
Okay, so what we have is our rice is finished. This is the stroganoff, which is now set up. And we have a Parmesan, garlic, salt and pepper, Brussels sprouts to complement the meal so that there's some green. And it's all ready. And there it is. Beef stroganoff and rice over rice with Brussels sprouts. Not a bad Sunday meal.